Restream, you are the bane of my existence right now. But that's fine. Because I am back. And I'm gonna continue discussing, what's it? Who's it? What's it? Um, Basically my opinions on how the development of shonen characters. My God. Okay. Sorry, my mic had an issue. It was being stupid. But anyways, as I was saying, I was discussing some of the villain origins and different correlations um that seem to be common in a lot of shonen anime. Um, My Hero Academia was the key subject. If you weren't in my last stream, you'll see it. I'm gonna edit it to Art Talk. Um, because this this really intrigues me as an artist and as someone who creates characters. Now, for the most part, a lot of the time, you know, for a lot of these bad guys or villains, like the most dangerous ones have had the most horrific things happen to them as children, mind you. Um, be it physical or psychological or, you know, any form of abuse. By the way, if you get triggered easily by this, just know, just, you know, oh my gosh. Any hoozles. Come on. But, my opinion about this, like I said, doesn't really, um, it doesn't really reflect, like, anything professional. It just, it basically just reflects how things have worked. Where's the damn ratio bot? Okay. But, yeah. Give me a second. A lot of things seem to be acting up at the moment, and it is driving me crazy. be a butt. Don't be a butt. Where is it? Ah, there it is. Now, my my ordeal with this was it's the fact that no adult during this time bothered reaching out. And I I can't fathom these like literal tater tots, these little children going through such horrific events and pretty much not suffer from insanity or, just a really bad form of psychosis. And I'll tell you what, it's it's heartbreaking. Like a lot of it's heartbreaking. Like I'm not gonna bash like the original authors of the stories or anything like that because if it weren't for them, wouldn't have a fan base in the first place to talk about these types of things. So don't take what I say too harshly because I'm just stating from a storyteller's point of view. There's like people always like to point out the plot holes and stuff like that. So it's just basically poking around at certain things. I'm not trying to nitpick about, oh, how the show could be better or how this, that, and the other doesn't go and all that stuff. But from a storyteller's point of view, as well as, you know, someone who's writing comics, you know, some the most traumatic events in these kids' lives could have either been prevented or helped, but no one was there to help them. I mean, I get it, especially with the protagonist, the badass origin and how they work their ass off to get to where they are today. They could still work their ass off without, being either a social pariah or just outcasted for something they have no control over. It's ridiculous, in my opinion. Like, it's something that they cannot control. And it irks me that it has to be their origin story. Because frankly, if this in my like how the story was going, I wouldn't have been surprised if they went rogue or turned into someone really dangerous. I would not have been surprised because no one was helping them, no one was telling these guys the truth or anything. Now, I'm not gonna get into the whole AFO may be Deku's dad type of thing because there's nothing the author said that correlates to that. So, and plus he's inside Shigaraki now. He's, merged with him or whatever. So, never know. But, it's just that he, being bullied and ridiculed for something, again, they could not control. That's how a lot of bad things happen because of situations like this. Like, in reality, like, if a kid was getting fucked with this much to the point of nearly breaking, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an attempted school shooting. Like, fucking seriously. I live in the United States, so that happens. I'm not sure about other countries. I'm not familiar with the Japanese school system or anything like that, but they have some of the highest suicide rates among teenagers. Teenagers. And from the pressure that, society already puts on kids, it doesn't matter if it's Japan, China, United States, Canada, it doesn't matter. Like, pressure is pressure, period. Pressure is a universal language. I don't care what anybody says. But to be amongst that outcasted percentage and to be ridiculed for it, or pretty much, treated like cancer type of thing, it's, I get that amazement that, the protagonist is supposed to give to kids, what, to kids, or, people saying like, oh, they persevered through all of this trauma and still ended up a good guy and stuff like that. In a perfect world, yeah, we would like something like that. And that's actually happened to a lot of people. But the trauma that these fuckers went through, uh-uh. Now, I don't know if a villain Naruto would have joined the Akatsuki, considering they were after the Jinchurikis. So I don't think he would join the Akatsuki. I don't think he would join the Akatsuki. The worst case scenario for Naruto would have been for him to go rogue and to master Kurama's power, or let hatred take over and let Kurama control him completely to the point of no return. Those would be the worst case scenarios for Naruto. He wouldn't be joining the Akatsuki because of their mission. It just would not make any sense. Now, I don't mind people, I'm not trying to bash AUs and stuff like that, but from the story arc, from the scenario, from what was described about these organizations, these sects, these sects, the villages and stuff like that, the Akatsuki, I think, would be the last organization that Naruto would end up joining. Like, last. Unless if they didn't plan on yanking his bijou from him, that'd be great. But at the same time, he would be weaponized too. So it wouldn't be good either way. Now, let's see. I'm trying to think. Uh, okay. The alternative, villain Deku, for instance. Pretty much, like I said before, what he has could have easily been a villain's origin story. Like, there's no doubt about it. Because being told that you're worthless, let alone given a nickname that means useless or worthless, and then getting told by your hero that you looked up to all your life that you can't be a hero because you're quirkless on a rooftop, pretty much just about suicidal as is, like, that's enough to send someone over the edge. Hey, Wolfie. Hey, Snowball. But like I said, it would be enough to send someone like over the edge and stuff like that. And it would really make him despise society in that point. And God forbid he actually obtained the power. Like the Deku that still obtained one for all, but ends up becoming like the most dangerous villain in the world. Well, in Japan. I don't know what the world standards are with the heroes and villains. We just know about the Japanese ones. We don't really know about the other countries and stuff like that. Who's the number one villain in the world? Who's the number one hero in the world? You can't tell me there aren't other really powerful figures out there in other countries. But, the focus is on the character and stuff, and you don't really want to stray too much away from that. But, dear God, like, I don't freaking blame him. Because the guy that's supposed to be your childhood best friend, for them to turn their back on you because you're different or because of something you absolutely cannot control, that is enough to really make someone vindictive. And, you know, revenge is best served cold. Now, another form of revenge, of course, is living your life successfully and stuff like that. And that's something Deku did do in the canon arc. He's literally the most powerful hero in Japan. Like, dead ass. And he's more powerful than UA combined. Like, the entire school. This includes this includes the big three third years. Although Mirio lost his quirk. So, that's sad. But, like, he's still more powerful than all of UA combined. By manga art. By the manga arcs. I don't know how far the anime has gotten, but, yeah, it's pretty brutal. But the fact that he had, another spoiler alert, that he had to wander all over the place because of a fear that he had for other people. It's that inane selflessness and forsaking his own well-being, let alone his mental health. That's not healthy. And I didn't really get into the too much into the I am here part. Like I said, somebody made a TikTok analysis of that. But from what it was saying, I have to agree. Because I am here me doesn't, isn't supposed to mean I'm gonna sacrifice everything about me just to save people. I'm gonna sacrifice my mental health. I'm gonna sacrifice my body, everything, just for the cause. Like, damn near suicidal. And a people pleaser. Like, that is a deadly combination for somebody who wants to demonstrate heroism. And the fact that he's so selfless is actually harming him more than it is helping him. See, Deku is the definition of what a hero is supposed to be. Not, run down and, tired and suffering from exhaustion, but, the work drive and the, not discriminating against people just because they don't have certain things or aren't a certain way. and to serve society and not, worry about glory or lining their pockets. And like Stain said, he admired Izuku because he was one of the few real heroes out there. And that stands true because he wants to be a hero that saves everyone. Now, listen carefully about this. Saving everyone doesn't actually mean saving everyone. What it means is that he will not turn a blind eye to someone who might be a villain or who is a known villain, but he isn't going to turn their back on them just because they're a villain, but they are like, they need help. They need to be saved, or else all hope is lost. That's the kind of hero that that's the type of heroism Deku demonstrates throughout the series. But at the same time, I am here is not healthy. It is not a healthy creed to live by. And even Inko told All Might that she does not want her son to end up like him. As much as she's admired him and her knowing how much he has looked up to him, those words told you right there that she even knew his creed or, you know, his way of heroism wasn't always the right way, wasn't, really a way to live. And I'm still kind of pissed about how she didn't really encourage her son or continue encouraging him. She just kept saying, I'm sorry. Like, bitch, don't say you're sorry. Say you'll help. You know? Hold on. The question is for each one for all you said to become one for alls, but it's changed. Or you get chosen by that what's about the one for all card. Huh? My question is each one for all user have different one for alls, but is it by chance or you get chosen? No, that's not how it works. That's not how one for all works. It is passed down from master to master. Now, one for all is basically the superpower of superpowers. It is literally the most powerful quirk you can have. Like, one of the most very powerful quirks you can have. But its origin is a little bit complicated because the first descendant, the first user, who was the brother of AFO, like, over time it grew more powerful. And it was like dead ass, like 100 times stronger than it was in the past. By the time All Might gave Deku one for all, like, it wasn't as powerful as it was then, but over time it grew more powerful because of the users. Now, the users did have quirks of their own before obtaining one for all. Like, like the I think it's the fifth user, the one who has Black Whip. You know, he tells Deku that he has, his quirk, but a more powerful version of it because of one for all. So he can unlock all these quirks and practice them and they would be 100 times stronger than the ones who had those quirks before him. And because One for All would just be, boosting them tenfold. But it takes like a lot of focus and, discipline to actually get through these. Like Deku has had to train with the previous users in his mind alone to get some form of mastery of the different quirks. And it's mind numbing. And because he was originally born quirkless, he had to train his body first before All Might could, give him his power. Because it would have torn him to shreds if he was not trained properly, and he probably would have done more than break his arms and fingers if he did not train properly with One for All. And, you know, it just, it's mind blowing sometimes. But, like, you know, there's the protagonist logic. Oh, they have a certain power that makes them the most powerful character, blah, blah, blah. That's not always the case. Like, for instance, I'm going to use a major example, Goku. He was not by default, the most powerful character in the series. He has been beaten in Dragon Ball and in Dragon Ball Z. He has been beaten. And he has lost a few fights. But, but, he trained. That's the whole epiphany of Goku is he's trained to get to where he is. It did not just it wasn't just given to him. Like he had to train his body, his mind and stuff to obtain the power he has now. Otherwise, he would not have reached godhood. He would not have reached Super Saiyan Blue. He would not have reached Ultra Instinct. It would not have been possible. Excuse me. If he did not train properly. Same goes for Naruto. Him being the Jinchuriki, he wasn't by default, the most powerful character in the anime in the beginning. Like, there's no, like, by default, he was not, the most powerful. Because he wasn't receiving proper training, as a ninja until later. But he wasn't training with the bijou inside him. He wasn't training to, like, control his anger and letting Kurama take over. It wasn't until like Shippuden where he got some control over when he gained some control, and when he fought Kurama on the inside of him so he could unlock the seal and unlock the full potential of the Nine-Tailed Fox. But like I said, it's many years later. Or a few years later. But it's still, by default, he was not the most powerful person. But he was still treated terribly in his youth just because he had a monster inside him that was put inside him not by choice. And again, the fourth Hokage was his freaking dad. And he had guardians that could have looked after him, that could have defended him. And so he wouldn't be treated like a damn monster. Like, how can you outwardly say, don't play with that kid, they're a freak or whatever, about a damn 5-year old who has no control over, you know, what's inside them or what they are. It makes no sense. Like, for instance, Goku was born with a really low power level as a Saiyan. Now, he was deemed lower class. I don't know what his dad Bardock was. He was probably like mid class or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But, and that became Vegeta's downfall by underestimating Goku and his potential because Goku trained his body so he could gain the strength that he has. And that was something that was, I guess, unorthodox to Saiyans. Like, once you were low class, you remained low class, but, to be honest, if if Planet Vegeta still existed or was revived, I bet you, I bet you, either Vegeta or Goku would have taken the throne easily, and they would be worshipped not just as royalty but as gods. But like I said, they did not. There's no default when it comes to being the most powerful character in the series. And sometimes the protagonist isn't the most powerful character in the series. Like, even like during the fight between AFO and All Might, the most powerful former number one hero, had the hardest time, especially with his injury, beating All for One. And he was in horrible shape. He lost his power. And I believe even without Bakugo getting kidnapped by the villains and such, I think All Might would have lost his power anyways in a confrontation with All for One. It was bound to happen. So it just happened sooner than people expected, and Bakugo went on this tidbit about blaming himself and yada yada. Yeah, I discussed this in the previous segment already about how there are heroes that really have no business being heroes, aka Endeavor, who really should have been in prison for everything that he's done. Like, you know, anything. I would rather mass murder than a freaking child abuser and wife beater and using her for her quirk. Not for, not, you know, really having a connection with his family just so he can have the perfect weapon, just so he can fulfill his obsession. That's villain behavior, not hero behavior. But because of his status, sorry, a lot of stuff was overlooked. There was never really justice for the Todorokis. That's why we have these fanfic stories. Because if it was written in there how it should have been, how, law and hero society and stuff, Endeavor should have been in prison. He should not have been he shouldn't have been able to keep his #1 hero title. I don't give a damn what anybody says. He abused his family and pretty much killed his firstborn son because he didn't have his perfect weapon, and it pretty much made the child go in it made the guy go insane to the point where he was willing to risk his own life just to please his father. He knew why he was born. He wanted to fulfill his dad's dream. But after Shoto was born, he was shut out along with his other siblings. And that isn't healthy. That isn't how shit is supposed to work. Like, I'm sorry, that should not have been overlooked and, oh, I'm proud of you, son, and, I'll try to be the hero that, you deserve, and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you should have been that from the beginning. I mean, I believe in second chances and redemption and all that shit, but you broke your kids. You broke your kids. One of them is the second most powerful villain in Japan. His quirk is literally cremation. Like, he can freaking incinerate people to ashes in an instant, pretty much. That's how powerful Dabi is. But no. Like, no one bothered looking into this, investigating it, or anything like that. Because, oh, Endeavor's a pro hero. He could do no wrong. That's the bullshittery of the Hero Society that made me mad. And it happens in real life too. And the hypocrisy behind it all. Like, we don't ask why the bad guys are the bad guys. We just know that they're the bad guys because of the things they've done. But could it be prevented had someone reached out to them? Or were they just a lost cause from the beginning? Which is something I highly doubt. Like, it could be like a behind the scenes type of thing about, Todoroki getting therapy and the mental health stuff he needs. Because it wouldn't really be the focus of the show and it would divert from it, but just from that alone, if these heroes bothered actually reaching out to real victims of society, they would not be where they are today. People would be getting help. Yeah, exactly. Like, no one bothered reaching out a hand and asking the main questions. Do you need help? Are you okay? Or the insidious terminology, the infamous terminology, I am here. But the real I am here, as in I am here for you, not for the publicity, not for the glory, not for people to notice me. I am here for you. And that was the problem for a lot of these guys. That's why Shigaraki despises All Might. Because that damn quote, I am here, does not mean he's going to be there for you. He's going to be there for people to notice him and his heroics. not for the victims or the people that need help the most. Now, a lot of the crimes committed in the LOB, is like beyond, horrible, like killing hundreds of people. But at the same time, no one has bothered to actually reach out to them and actually attempted to know them as people because society gave up on them the moment they started committing crimes. That's not how it's supposed to work. And it irks me that going through the comics and different TV shows and cartoons I watched, the bad guys didn't have to be the bad guys. If people paid attention to them, if people had helped them, they wouldn't be bad guys. They wouldn't be villains. They wouldn't be murderers. They wouldn't be killers. They wouldn't be murderers. They wouldn't be, just these really notorious people that cause harm. They would not be like this. Like I said, the protagonist in My Hero Academia, his life could have gone two ways from the shit he was put through. He could have he could either be the most powerful hero or the most dangerous villain. Like, that's no joke. That's the reality of it. And thanks to his optimism and perseverance, that's what held him together to get through the bullshit he was going through. Because if he had let go of his sanity, society would be fucked. Like, the foundation of the Hero Society would crumble because of Deku. But, he chose not to do that. Now, some of the villains had a choice of whether or not to become villains. But at the same time, they felt like they had no place to really call home. So they go to the League. And like I said, this terrified 4-year-old boy who accidentally killed his family, he should not have been the bad guy. Somebody should have found him and reached out to him. Somebody should have investigated his family's deaths. That's another thing I have a problem with. There's like some investigating that should have been going on and that should have been mentioned because people would be in jail and you know they wouldn't have to go through the hell that they went through at such a terribly young age. 4 years old, and your touch kills your family, costing you your sanity, your well-being, your everything, your will to live. Like, that's not something a 4-year-old is supposed to experience. I don't care how well written that is. No 4-year-old deserves that kind of horrific experience. It's downright awful. And he got picked up by the damn number one villain because at the time he was the only one that, saved him, quote unquote. The heroes didn't fucking look at him. They didn't try to fucking find him or anything. They were just like, murder, family dead, and they didn't put two and two the frick together that the missing child with a quirk who just manifested is the damn grandson of the former number one hero. Like, the fuck? Yes, I already discussed that in the last segment. I know about the abuse by the father. I already discussed that in the previous segment, in the earlier stream. Go back to the earlier stream and you'll actually hear me talk about it. But as I was saying, you know, it it's painful. A child went through this. And like I said in my last video, it was accidentally. It was accidental, with one exception, his father. His abusive father, who was from the Shimura side. Like, how could you hide the fact or not want your own kids to know about, you know, the hero that they watched? Or the heroes that they watched, and knowing that their grandmother was one of them. Who gave her life, by the way, to save Yagi and to give him one for all so it would not fall in All for One's hands. She fought to her last breath just to save everyone. But it was already terrible enough for them. And boy, when I tell you that I never see some of these things coming. You know, Dabi reveals himself during the war, pretty much. And I'll never forget this quote he said in the manga while he was facing Endeavor Shoto. The past never forgets. Now, let that sink in for a moment. The past never forgets. What do you mean by that? Meaning, all the hell he went through. The non-existent help he received put him through this, made him what he is today. All to just be ignored by the person they admire the most. And it's hurtful. But I'm getting a little bit tired, so I mean, it's fine. I did say trigger warning when it comes to these things. So if it's not your cup of tea, you know, you don't have to listen to that part of the segment. I did warn people at the beginning that there's going to be some heavy topics discussed when it comes to character psychology and how these shonen characters develop. But I'm going to call it a night because I'm getting sleepy and I don't want to be delirious or anything. So I'm going to call it now. So, with that being said, this has been Kiki, your Empress, your Queen, and everything in between. And the HBIC. Look it up if you don't know that acronym. I am peacing out. Bye!